Jeremiah Dyke asked me to review his book, Do Natural Numbers Ever Wonder What's Unnatural? It begins with the wonderful number saying goodbye to all of his natural number friends. And the first land that he visits, it's the land of the whole numbers. And not surprisingly, there's holes in some of them. He says goodbye to these whole numbers and he sets off and he finds Integer Island. Now, Integer Island has got a whole bunch of very negative characters and a whole bunch of really positive characters. Is he satisfied? No. He starts swimming off Integer Island and he reaches Rational Road. Rational Road has got a whole lot of signs on it with fractions. He then has an epiphany, and the epiphany is that he, as a natural number, is free to travel as he chooses through all of these different lands. But rational numbers are not free to travel. They can't go and visit Integer Island. They can't visit the whole number land, and they can't visit the land of natural numbers. So that was his epiphany. At that point, we say goodbye to our little friend, the wonderful number, and we take off to a different planet, and that's the planet of irrational numbers. There they are. So what do I think of this book? Well, I think that there's a lot of cute little quips in here. I love the wonderful number, and I love the negative integers being kind of sour looking figures. But I do have concerns with the book. Number one is the overall structure. So we have natural numbers introduced, then whole numbers, then integral numbers, then rational numbers. And the expectation is that we would then be shown real numbers. But instead, Jeremiah takes us and doesn't show us real numbers, doesn't let our wonderful number one continue to show us real numbers. Instead, he says goodbye to our wonderful number one and takes us off to visit irrational numbers. So the overall structure of the book doesn't please me. I like symmetry in there, and I think that this introduction of the irrational numbers was a poor choice. There's some other things that I'm a little bit concerned about that they might confuse kids. The first one is that there's no zeros, of course, in the natural numbers, but we don't see, for example, the number 10 here. So 10 is a natural number, but kids might be confused whenever they don't see that here. And it looks like whenever our wonderful number meets zeros, that he's never met them before. Well, that's not true. He's met 100 before, and he's met 1,000 before. So he's definitely seen zeros before. So just a little concern that I have that it might confuse a few kids. Integer Island is a fun place to visit. The rainbow that we see that introduces us, it's maybe a little bit confusing where exactly the rainbow is, because here we see that it doesn't connect the land of whole numbers and Integer Island, whereas on the previous picture you saw that it does connect the two. So again, a possibility for confusion with the kids with that diagram. This is definitely one of the high points of the book. I love those sour little nasty negative creatures. And then we swim across with our wonderful number, and then we reach what looks like the starting point of the real numbers. I don't think that is a very good image to introduce real numbers. Sorry, this is rationals. I don't think this is a very good way to introduce rational numbers, because of course we're going to deal with negative rationals as well as positive, and so starting off at a toll doesn't seem quite the right metaphor. This, I think, would have been a better place to have started, where the road looks like it goes in both directions. We are introduced to a whole slew of rational numbers, and it's not apparent that that these are organized. For example, in the background here we have the number 3, which looks like it's positive, and then we have a -2 and a -8 holding hands, maybe -28, not clear. We have a 0 in a car, so it just doesn't look like this rational road is organized from negative to positive, like we saw with the integers. And whenever the epiphany comes for our wonderful number, it's only a partial epiphany. For example, he doesn't have the epiphany that the negative integers cannot go to the land of whole numbers. So you can see that the little signs in the land of whole numbers, it crosses out a half, but it doesn't have anywhere on there, for example, crossing out -1 or -3. Lastly, it's time to say goodbye to our wonderful number and head into outer space to visit the Irrational Planet. The Irrational Planet is introduced as an alien world where numbers never end and never repeat. Well, that can be a little bit confusing for students since there's no reference to a decimal expansion of the numbers. So my overall opinion of the book is that it has some marvelous little ideas in it, but overall there are some major flaws as well. I'm also not sure which age group to recommend for this book. It certainly takes a long time to introduce the zeros, so it doesn't seem appropriate for junior high or high school, yet it ends off with square roots, which is too advanced for an average elementary school student. Thank you.